So I'm Kamakshi. I'm 21 years old and I'm from India. I'm doing my master's in international management currently at the University of Bath, and I have previously done my bachelor's in commerce and a level 2 intermediate clearance in chartered accountancy back from India. And I like engaging in activities and things apart from academics, so which is why I'm running for the president.
Brilliant, brilliant. I mean, that was my next question actually, is why do you want to be president?
So as I said, that I like engaging in activities apart from academics, but then you might ask me like, why not another STO officer and why president specifically? I think I'm really great at coordinating people and
Cool.
being on top of things. And I'm currently the PGT exec chair at the university, so I have an idea of how to get things done, and I think I'll be great at managing that apart from, just bringing people together and getting stuff done on time. And I think president is like a great opportunity for me to be able to do that.
Cool, cool, good stuff. So what are the three big differences that students will see with you as president?
So the three things that I'm focusing on, which I've also written about in my manifesto, are like academic enhancements, feedback assessments, and event engagements. Um, Basic idea of all three is that I want that students are open enough to come to the SU and address their issues at any time, because a lot of them face a lot of difficulties, especially during the COVID time. A lot of people haven't been able to go back home, especially like I haven't been able to go back home. So I know that it's the time when you want people to be there for you. And if you create that atmosphere, I think I want to be able to create that open atmosphere between the university and the students and bridge that gap between the two, so that the university experience as a whole is enhanced for everyone.
Oh, cool, cool. Sounds brilliant. Sounds like a dreamy little world that we should all be in. So in your manifesto, you do say that you want to work hard to improve mental health services as well. Obviously, a big challenge. How do you plan to do that?
Um, I think I do plan on increasing activities online that increase conversations between students, um, and the people who will be handling. So, for example, I know like a lot of people face like mental health issues, especially when they're away from home, and especially like international students. So, create an online platform for them which is easily accessible and give them the opportunity to talk it out without any fears. So, just a platform where they put in their posts anonymous. We can have a chat with them back and just ensure that there's a platform where the students feel free to put their issues. So that's how I plan to address it. But I will take in consideration the views of what other people have to say. What are the current mental health issues that the university has come across? Take that into consideration and then come up with the online platform. But more so, I think it should be an online thing, which is easily accessible to everyone.
So what do you think? Because some kind of anonymous platforms already exist, and students are, for better or worse, turning to those platforms for mental health support. What do you think the main advantages would be of the SU managing something like that, and why not just leave it to the internet?
So yeah, so I think the university is currently already handling this, and there are a lot of societies that are doing it. But the main reason I want the SU to handle this is so that we have it in our control. When things are done by societies and the university on their own, it tends to be neglected by the students. When you have a lot of random emails, they just tend to let it go. Whereas when you have continuous Instagram posts about some, I think I want students to know that something like this exists. So an anonymous platform, when done by the SU, is something that'll be visible to everyone. Like there'll hardly be a way that it'll be neglected.
Right, and how would you, because anonymous platforms have existed for quite a while in university communities, and they tend to facilitate some quite harmful content, and we've seen previous SU officers face quite harsh and unjust criticism on there. How do you plan to protect against that and make sure that it just isn't taken over by um, things such as harassment and bullying?
I think so. obviously we'll have this option of them disclosing their names and student IDs, but when I'm saying it's anonymous, we will be taking their student IDs, but that data won't come to us. It will go directly to the university. So what comes to us is a genuine request. But in case, obviously, when you're saying that it's visible to someone as harassment or something, the user ID details have gone to the uni. So then we can catch hold of those people. So
Ah,
yeah, so what I'm saying is that to the SU, we get the data of the harassment issues, but the personal details go to the university so that we don't want to interfere with that. But in case of like situations as you portrayed them, we will get in touch with the uni team again to figure out what the user ID, because we'll be asking for their bath email ID. So that way we can get to know about who the person was who just like put up an anonymous message that wasn't for the forum.
okay, okay. Yeah, sounds quite complicated that one, but moving on. So your manifesto includes asking academic staff to work outside of regular working hours to be in touch with students. How do you plan on getting academic staff to do that when very few actually deliver on their contractual obligations as personal tutors to students?
I think more so what I was saying about the after hour, like working after 9 to 5, like the normal range hours, was that I wanted there to be people, like for example, if there's someone facing some difficulty after 5 o'clock, I personally I have faced the issue is why I put it up. So just as simple as I had to get my fees payment done for the second installment, and I was very close to the deadline, but and I needed the bank account details, but I couldn't get in touch with anyone because it was past 5. So what I plan on doing with that is that not only staff, we can get student engagements in that. So we can have someone take a note of all this, because when we email, a lot of times it's just told to us that you send an email to us, we'll see it on Monday and not the weekends. If we have like students just monitor that, and because I don't care if I get the bank account details on Monday, but I just want to know that someone has heard me. So apart from if students could just have this online thing where they're just replying to the emails instead of automated emails, because with automated emails you never know if you have actually portrayed the issue or not.
Right, okay, cool. Moving on again, so through their skills program, the SU already delivers workshops on leadership, project management, public speaking, and a host of other topics. Why does your manifesto say that you want to start those up when they already exist?
um what more so I did not mean with starting them was, but I think getting them more in the students like perspective or in their view, because I think a lot of SU emails are just neglected. Like after a point of time, students tend to unsubscribe to the emails because there are a few of them are unnecessary emails. So what I plan to do is get those activities and engagements in view of the students. So a lot of Instagram engagement, like platforms where students actually would know what is going on with the SU. So I know those exist, but students don't know about them right now.
So
So
just jumping back there, what parts of SU communications would you say that are unnecessary?
sorry.
You said there that some parts of some SU emails are unnecessary.
Yeah.
What kind of information that you've seen be communicated would you class as unnecessary?
Um, I think personally, like there were a lot of emails with hall captains, whereas where I live, even though it's hello student accommodation, there was supposed to be hall captains. We don't have any hall captains. There was a lot of miscommunication. So after a point of time, those hall captains, your representative emails was just useless for me. So either we come up with this thing at the SU that if we are saying that uni accommodations should have hall captains, we make sure they do.
So do you not think that hall captains are important to
No, I
first
completely
years?
think they're important, but I think I did bring it up to the SU that the exchange where I live does not have hall captains, and either we sort that issue out, which I tried doing, but we couldn't sort it out. So after a point of time, those emails with engaging with my housemates and other housemates in the same building became pointless for me, because there was no hall captain, there was no one to monitor the activities going on. So which is also an issue I would want to address. I think a lot of the SU does a lot of things that are very important, but they somehow go unnoticed to students.
Cool, cool. So thanks for answering those. We're just going to move on to those questions that I spoke about earlier, where we're going to speak about some of the bigger issues facing the SU, higher education, and our campus and Bath students, particularly now. So the first one of those is that the government is taking action to ensure free speech on university campuses across the country. With SU's, Students' Union, central to this debate, do you think there are issues surrounding free speech in higher education? And what's your take on the government's action here?
I think it is a good space for people, especially who couldn't voice their opinions, or it was just like they were scared that they would be judged. But I think free speech is pretty important, and I think it was a good move because a lot of people are just put down even before they voice out their opinions. And I think it's important in higher education to be able to say what you feel, because what does the government want? They want students to study, they want the education in place, and how do we get that until we know what the students really want?
So
So
would you support the government's action to introduce a free speech champion?
I would, personally I would.
Cool. So the oversight of student media comes under the president's remit, yet your manifesto makes no mention of it. Would you support media's editorial independence and free speech on their platforms?
To an extent, I would, but I think having control over that is very important, because the moment we get the media aspect in, things can go to the other side, like how you don't want them to be. Um, so you're basically putting out people might put out things that's not what you want to say, and it might get a little dirty over there. So to an extent, I would support that, but to an extent, I would want to have control over it.
So what example? Well, let's take this back a step. So who would you trust with the editorial kind of oversight of media? Would that be the media officer and the editor in chief of Bath Time, or would you look to see every article and criticize what they write?
No, I think the major articles that would might be offensive to any community of any sort should be run by us. Otherwise, I think the media officers can handle it very well. I mean, I trust them with that. But stuff I think which can be debatable might seem a little offensive, because when we say free speech, you are open to put out what you think. So yeah, so it's sometimes it might be that you never know, but unintentionally you might be offending someone. So at least for those topics, I think that we should have a look at it before. So that's why I'm like, to an extent I agree, to an extent I would want to have control over it.
Okay, okay. So moving on now. So the SU is facing huge financial problems as a result of the pandemic. Which areas and activities would you prioritize and which would you cut?
The activities of student engagement, where they're meeting in groups, or coming together, would definitely be there, because I feel like this is a time when you want to see people, especially with the lockdown getting extended so much. You feel lonely, and that's what leads to mental health problems and depression. Those I would keep. A few activities I think that I would personally cut out. I don't know. I think you can always come up with a solution of finding ways that will like won't affect you financially. I think you can always think of ways for any activity that way. So as of now, I cannot think of an activity I would want to cut down on, but I would rather find an alternative for the same, which doesn't involve finances.
So the SU has a £210,000 shortfall this year. Do you think you can make up that shortfall without cutting anything?
No, what I'm saying is, I cannot make up the shortfall, but what I can make sure it wouldn't go any further down.
All right, okay, okay. So the SU this year received £300,000 from the university for Freshers Week and for the construction of East Village, which was the series of bars and outdoor venues across
Yeah.
the car park. So with Freshers Week receiving less engagement this year than years prior, and East Village struggling to fill seats for the few weeks that it was open, do you believe that this was a wise use of money? And given the university's track record with frivolous and misguided spending, do you think the university should cover the SU's shortcomings from the pandemic until it recovers?
Uh, I think first, the spending on the East Village, the activities for the Freshers Week, I think wasn't a wise spending because as much as you would want people to interact for Freshers Week, you knew it was the COVID week, and a lot of people would be scared of meeting people. As much as they would want to see other people, there's always this fear of what if the other person has COVID or has any symptoms at all. So a lot of it should have been done otherwise, like just like manage. I think Fortnite could have been done online very easily, considering everything was online. Um, yeah, and sorry, what was the second question?
So do you think that because the the university has a track record of frivolous and misguided spending, do you think that the university should cover the SU shortcomings this year and in years going forward until the SU recovers from the pandemic?
I think they should because I think it's a tough time for the SU as well. Like even though um what I think the main aim what should be looked at is that the SU and the university both want the well-being of the students. So if that is what the SU is focusing on, obviously what has happened, but the university should cover that until we recover. And I'm pretty sure next year I'll take care of it, of the account, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Cool, cool, good stuff. So moving on, last round of questions here. What's your stance on the NUS, the National Union of Students, and should the SU remain affiliated or not?
I think the SU should remain affiliated. I think it's a good thing when you have like other people for support as well. So if you want to voice out some opinion that you think other people have the same view on, I think it's a good idea. I think there was like we had voting right now to check whether we should be affiliated or not, and I think we should. I think we should.
And how can you justify that when the affiliation fee is so large? I think it's £30,000 a year. And when the when the NUS has failed to prompt any substantial change nationally.
I think it's more so that, there are times when you feel that the expense you're doing is not giving you the returns you want. But like personally, I believe that there might be chances when you really need that opinion, and having that group it's just like this support you have. Because if you're saying that for example, if the university isn't like supporting you anymore or whatsoever, you always have this group to stand
So
with. So
is it worth £30,000 for our SU officers to have a support group?
not really 30,000 pounds, but then you have to always like wait out the benefits and disadvantages. And I think like honestly 30,000 pounds is a lot, but then if it's benefiting the students, we can always have a look at the. I'm telling you, the account shouldn't be an issue once I'm in, considering the chartered accountancy background. But yeah, I think it should be looked at to this, like the scenario, like in COVID times. I think it's not important, but once we look at recovering from the term starting in June, I think you might need that. So it really depends on the outer circumstances and stuff happening around you as well.
Cool, cool. Well, thanks for speaking to me today. Thanks for speaking to me today, Kamakshi. That's all the questions I've got for you. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners and watchers?
I'm really excited for the coming term, is all I want to say. Hopefully, things should be back on track.